Welcome, everyone, to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. Thank you so much for listening. We have a really fantastic episode for you this week. Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football, he's a regular on the pod, joins me and really was just such an awesome guest. I think you guys will be so entertained listening to Kyle. We talk about the NFL season, playoffs, Good Morning Football. They're having really nice ratings this season. Get into Kyle's work for CBS and the NFL Today. Get into what it's going to be like to have a Super Bowl in Vegas. Kyle breaks down his full experience as a contestant on Wheel of Fortune. Really fun, really entertaining conversation with Kyle Brandt. And then, of course, after Kyle, we have the Traina Thoughts segment with my buddy Sal Licata. We talk about the Doc Rivers situation of leaving ESPN before he even made it to the All-Star break as their lead analyst to go coach the Bucs and what that all means with Jeff Van Gundy. Sal gets into his house situation, which I know a lot of you want to know about. And there's a lot of food talk this week with Sal and I. So that's all coming up. Before I get to it, I know a lot of you are listening, wanting to hear me address the situation with Sports Illustrated that happened on Friday of last week. I'm going to be honest. Well, let me start with this. I can't tell everyone out there how much I appreciate the reaching out, the kind words for my work, the really kind words for the podcast. It was really overwhelming on Friday. Heard from so many people about the podcast continuing and just, being a fan. And it's kind of crazy when I hear that stuff. So I do appreciate it. I saw it all, couldn't respond to everyone. It meant a lot. What I'm going to tell you about the situation is I'm not really going to get into it in full right now because there's a lot of stuff that still has to be worked out, and I don't want to get into it until that happens. This is what I can tell you. Sports Illustrated is still functioning. We're still running. Podcast is coming out right now as you're listening. We'll have another podcast next week, the week after. My column is rolling on. Traina Thoughts has been posted every day this week. So despite people saying Sports Illustrated was over, it's not over. We're still in business. We're still functioning. There's some business stuff at the top that's way out of my sort of stratosphere that's going on with companies that own the company and license the company. And they need to settle some things. So that's why I don't want to get into it. I'd rather talk about this in full in another couple of weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it is, when things get straightened out. Right now, they're trying to straighten out things. So, for your purposes, I can tell you the pod is still here right now. My column is still here right now. I don't know what's going to happen 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months from now, but right now we're here. And I've been told it's going to be here for a little while at least. And then we'll see what happens with whatever's going on at the top of the company. So enjoy the pod. Keep supporting it. Subscribe. Listen. That'll help. And I'll give you more information when I have it, but that's really the gist of it as of now. All right. Like I said, and thank you so much, everyone who reached out. It was way too kind, especially about the pod. I didn't know people liked it that much. That was nice. And I think you will like this episode a lot. It's Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football, followed by Sal Licata and Traina Thoughts. All right here, right now on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. All right. Joining me now. It's been too long. One of my regulars, one of my buddies, perfect guy to have on as we head into championship weekend. From Good Morning Football, 10 takes in 10 minutes, NFL Today, man of many jobs, Kyle Brandt. Kyle, what's going on?
This is normally when I jump in and bust your chops about something, and I like to just break the ice, and I have some funny thing, and I have plenty of chop busting to come.
Oh, I'm sure.
Jimmy, I could not join you on this program without starting by saying that I am chagrined, concerned, and crestfallen about some of the news I am seeing about the Sports Illustrated brand. I fully support it. I was raised on it. I think it forged a relationship with my father, and it's not just nostalgia. I think it's highly important today. I love it. I consume it. I would go to war for it. I would walk in traffic for it. You're a part of it for me. And I just want to acknowledge that to anybody and everybody who's listening, particularly people of influence. It is that important and that special to so many people in this country, and I'm one of them.
I appreciate that. I didn't know you were going to do that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm still here. Podcast is still going.
God bless you.
Who knows what's going to happen, but we're here and we're rolling, and hopefully we can keep rolling, and we'll see what happens. So thank you for that. It was, yes, it's been a interesting few days. Do you know that on Friday, when all of this broke and a lot of it on Twitter wasn't accurate and some was accurate and all this, and it was big, that I actually got a email from a PR company
Mm-hmm.
like, do you want to speak to someone about the end of Sports Illustrated and
Mm.
what it means? And it's like, okay, thanks for sending that.
Yeah, I bet that's tough. But listen, I'm in your corner. I'm in SI's corner. And on that note, Jimmy, when is your book coming out? My idea for you is you're going to do a book, and I already have the title. It's called The Book of Booking. And it's just you unloading all your stories of booking this show, failed bookings, successful bookings. You know, Simmons had the Book of Basketball. You're going to have the Book of Booking, and it's going to be a New York Times bestseller, and I'll buy 3 copies. It's a great idea for a book, and I know you got the material.
Oh, I have the material. There's no doubt about it. I could tell you stories. I don't even know if I have a good one for you. I could tell you later. I don't even recently that happened, but I have to say, as much as I complain about booking it, there are so many people like yourself who are so nice that when I call, say yes, want to do it, make arrangements so they can do it. And for the most part, people are really nice about it. But it's a giant puzzle. My favorite is when I have like 2 and 3 weeks out booked, and then tomorrow's pod I don't have booked. That's my favorite.
It is an up at dawn, pride swallowing siege to book a podcast. And for the listeners, here's the fun part. I'm not going to say, but Jimmy tells me this stuff off the air. I hear the goods. I know where the bodies are buried. I know who's a jerk. I know who's a flake. I know all of it. It's a great book, Jimmy. I'll buy it.
All right. It might have to happen sooner than later. There's so much to get into here with the NFL season, and you were on Wheel of Fortune. We got to get into that. Let me start with a little Good Morning Football.
Okay.
You guys, I was really happy to see this, that your regular season, your ratings were up 16% year over year, your highest rated season since 2017. And I have to assume that meant a lot given how long you guys have been on the air. Like, shows don't usually go up at this point in their shelf life. So that had to make you and Peter Schrager, Jamie Erdahl, Jason McCourty, I bet you guys had to celebrate that one a little bit.
Sure, man. Listen, anybody who says they don't, it's like, Jimmy, in sports media, if people don't say they love ratings nuggets, they're liars. If people don't say they love getting that sports Emmy nomination, they're liars. It's awesome. I've gotten them before. It's awesome to get them, and it sucks when you don't win. And I have no idea how those ratings potions are cooked and brewed and how they percolate. When I see a good one, I like it. And I would attribute it to 2 things. One, I mean, you know better than anybody what the NFL ratings are. And if you're just a piece of that, it's like you're just part of the kingdom, and even getting the crumbs of the giant loaf of bread that they bake every single weekend, and the numbers just go up. And then, I don't know, like something you and I have talked about many, many times, and that I speak to with my dad all the time. My dad wakes up in California at 7 a.m. and says, I like to turn on you guys. And I would like to turn on you guys if you weren't my son, because if you go to the other channels, it's just a lot of yelling and it's very contentious. And I just don't feel like those people even like sports. And then I'll say, Dad, those things you're talking about are really highly rated, very successful shows that a lot of people watch. He said, well, let them watch. I like when I get up having my coffee, I don't want someone screaming that somebody should be fired and they're a choker. Like, I love you, Dad.
Well, that's what I felt on Monday, because when I put you guys on Monday, I thought the weekend was phenomenal. The games were phenomenal.
Yeah, they were.
You had the classic in Buffalo with the Chiefs and the Bills. You have the phenomenal story of the Lions. I'm saying phenomenal too much. Lamar second half against the Texans. It was a great weekend. And your show on Monday, I thought, hit the perfect tone from this standpoint. I get what these shows have to do. I get what they're trying to do. I understand it. But that Bills Chiefs game doesn't have to be a referendum on Josh Allen. Like, right away, it's, where is Josh Allen? Is Burrow better? And this, like, the guy played his ass off. Yeah. Lost to the best quarterback in the game, the guy who's trending to become the best quarterback ever. The Chief defense is great. The Bills were banged up. Like, do we have to now make this definitive and spend all these minutes now about Josh Allen? Like, to me, that wasn't what I wanted to hear on Monday morning. Like, yes, you have to analyze a little bit. He missed one throw, and yeah, he should have, tried to get the first down. I got all that. But like, to me, that's not a game now where we put that in the scope of his career. It would just, but that's what everyone has to do. It gets annoying.
This is wheelhouse, Jimmy. I think about this every day. I thought about it for this morning. I'll think about tomorrow. I have this desire to have a normal conversation. Just like our show is supposed to be four friends talking about football. And when four friends talk about football, they just say what you're saying. Sometimes they say, both teams played pretty well and it was just a good game. And I like that. And yet there's this siren song that's singing for you, and it's clicks and likes and retweets, and you say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to chuck a grenade onto social media today and just see who gets blown up by it. And I'm going to say something like Josh Allen should demand a trade, or Stephon Diggs should be cut, or just anything. And I don't believe it, but it would line my wallet. I've been in rooms with people who are executives who make decisions, and they sit there and they're saying, should we hire this person or this person? I've seen the conversations happen. And when they're sitting there at a stalemate, they go online and they pull up their profiles and they see who has more followers and who's more reactive. I've seen it. And I could tell you the network, I could tell you the executive, and they pulled it up right in front of me. They're like, oh, well, look, this person has 300,000 more Twitter followers. They get the job. And if you get, it's not hard to get followers. Just be either unbelievably funny or just a huge ass, and maybe even in opposite order. So I'm really tempted by that sometimes, because I think I would be more successful in whatever that term means if you just came on every single morning and you were a provocateur. I can't do it. It's so disingenuous. It's not who I am.
And I think there is a time and a place. It's like when the Cowboys lose, yes, there is a conversation to be had about Mike McCarthy, but I don't know. I watched when that Bills game was over, my thoughts were the coach is a buffoon for calling a fake punt. The offensive coordinator made a mistake in not running more design runs for Josh Allen. And like, what were those last two plays? It wasn't like, where is Josh Allen's place now in the NFL? And does this hurt his legacy? Like, I don't know. My brain doesn't go there automatically. Sometimes like the Cowboys to me, I still want to know. I went into this last week with Greg Olson. I still want to know what the hell happened to the Eagles. That's way more fascinating to me than no one knows. It's ridiculous.
I think the reason it's not talked about that much with Eagles is no one has a good answer. There's not a oh, that's a great, it's just like, I don't know. They just fell apart. And that so people don't talk about it because people don't know.
Yeah.
But believe me, I'm with you 100%. And I feel like sometimes I get tempted. It's like someone who's just tempted by any sort of sin. I think I'll just say something crazy today I don't believe in. I just can't do it. You feel like a fool. You feel like a fool.
That's how I don't know. I look at it like I don't want whatever little credibility I have to be tarnished, but some people just don't care.
You know what the other one is? This is another thing. If you want to get a bunch of followers and you want to get your profile up and you want network execs to notice you and maybe hire you or maybe pay you more, Twitter beef is old, tale as old as time, but it is undefeated in that nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd, and it will make you famous if you get in a big contentious argument with another person. And some people love it. And some people are very good at it. I have a hard and fast no Twitter beef rule where I don't think it's dignified. And I think most people in the industry are like just pitying you. And I think it looks pathetic. I've had times when I almost jumped, and I've had people, quote unquote, come at me on Twitter, other like public people. And I just won't do it. I feel ashamed if I do it. And I think it's sad when it happens. It's not for me.
I'm with you 100%. But what I hate about that too is it sort of eliminates any sort of conversation and dialogue you can have. And like, I'll give you an example. So on Monday, when the news came out that the WWE was going to Netflix, Darren Rovell tweeted something that like, Disney should be very worried. Streaming could put an end to ESPN based on this deal because they paid $5 billion. So I wanted to write back and say, okay, but that would go under the premise that all of these leagues, NFL, NBA, MLB, just go to one broadcast partner, and nobody does that. They all have multiple. Look at the NFL; it's all over the place. CBS, Fox, NBA. So that theory makes no sense. If I say that to him in that way, which is not in an argumentative combative way, just as a people are going to say, "Oh, look, you going in on, oh, go get them," and it's like then you can't have a conversation. Like it's a bummer.
It is,
because I'd like to hear what his logic is behind that.
You can't. It ends quickly, and it only goes bad places. You want a story? I'll give you a story, and I'll name a name. Okay, high-profile guy. After the Colts hired Jeff Saturday to be their head coach in the 2022 season, a lot of takes, huge thing in sports. I was pretty negatively against it. I really went, whatever my take was at the time, that's irrelevant. And I poked the bear a little bit on the air, and I said, I'm really looking forward to what ESPN is going to say about this, because that's one of their colleagues, and are those players over there going to have anything to say? Will any of them go negative? And I kind of, I don't know, challenged them over there to do that. And it's not something I normally do. Ryan Clark, who I had never met, don't know, tweeted at me. And it was something to the effect of like, hey, at Kyle Brandt, like, why don't you handle your business over there and we'll handle our business, or whatever it was. Okay. So I totally respect Ryan Clark. I thought it was a fairly elegant tweet, and I understood where he was coming from. I remember I pulled it up and I'm like, what am I going to say back? And I said, I don't know. I understand what he's saying. I don't really feel like fighting. I don't know him. There was someone sitting next to me who knows how this industry works. And they're like, you got to get in there. You got to go. You can't take that. And I go, I'm not going to do that. If anything, I would DM him to settle something, but I'm not going to have a slap fight in the cafeteria for the sake of everybody looking at me. Now, if he had said something really offensive or whatever, then you handle it differently. It was sort of a like, hey, we'll mind our business over here. Don't worry about it. Fine. Right. I get it, for someone that I respect as a player and as a broadcaster. So I just moved the hell on. But Jimmy, in doing that, I cost myself followers and profile and fame and all that nonsense. And I regret nothing. And to this day, I still respect the guy. It's fine. You can say something. We don't have to fight about it. It just, that's how I operate.
Well, you started it too.
Yeah, but well, I guess that's true. I called out his network. Well, he responded gracefully, and I'm like, all right, fine. Move on.
I'm with you on every single word you said, because I just know for me, when I see two people fighting on Twitter, I just get the douche chills right away. I'm like, do you understand how bad? Like, it's so bad. It's so, and if it's someone I like, I sometimes I'll say to them like, don't do this. You look, it just
the Jonah Hill gift with the cut it out.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I know you get this too. There are people who just live for that. And when someone I like engages one of those people who live for that, I say, no, don't do that. Right. Don't go after that person. And just made their week.
Exactly. And I don't want to sound high and mighty, but because there's been times where like, there have been many times I've started to type up a tweet that would, I'm lucky. I always sort of catch myself. I'm like, okay, don't do this. Don't do this.
Don't do it.
Yeah, it's so bad. I get the impression from you that you don't like talking about the Cowboys. Is that true? Is that a fair statement?
Here's what I don't like. I don't like the media push to talk about them just for the sake of talking about them. When we started Good Morning Football, one of our mission statements was to not follow the conventional TV rules. It's like anything with a podcast now or something. You have to find a way to be different. And so our thing was like, let's honestly try to talk about all the teams. Let's try to treat them like they're like really our children and everybody gets fair time. It doesn't always work out that way, but I've just seen rundowns and I've been in production meetings where they're like, just talk Cowboys. So, but I'm like, well, hold on a second now. But like the Rams are really good, or the Lions are getting good, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. Just talk Cowboys. And I hate that. I hate that because it's disingenuous. I think people get sick of it. And I think it's like, it's just a fake thing to do. It's like having a movie and just putting a ton of sex and violence in it that's not even going anywhere or meaning anything. It's just stuffing the movie with sugar because people like it. So I don't like talking about it for Cowboys' sake. And then, they never amount to anything. We all know they're never going to amount to anything every year, yet we still do it. So I just find it regurgitative and fake. It's cotton candy. It's just, it's doing it for doing its sake. And that's not how I like to do TV.
I hear what you're saying. I guess the only way I would push back on that. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you too, that they don't amount to, it's always the same shit over and over. But the only pushback I'd have is what can't be denied is the interest nationwide. I mean, they got 40 million viewers for their playoff game against the Packers. And the game was awful. I mean, 40 million viewers. So I do think people want to hear about the Cowboys, but I also think the Cowboys are used as a crutch, and it's one of those, um, we have nothing to talk about today. We need attention. Let's get some shit going. Let's talk about the Cowboys. So,
yeah. And I guess what my point is, like, I know the ratings and like, I've seen it. I've seen the TV spikes and I've seen advanced metrics about Cowboys segments versus others. We've just never adhered to that on our show. We have the luxury of being on the league's network where it's like we don't have to do that. And it definitely hurts our ratings. And I'm sure we could do more if we just screamed about the Cowboys every morning. It's not authentic. My number one core at this point in my life, and I've been doing this for long enough, I'm a middle-aged fart, is I crave authenticity so much where I will look at someone on TV or listen to a podcast. I'm like, I really feel like that's them. I feel like they would say the same thing if they weren't on the air. And it's so rare, Jimmy.
yeah, I agree. I do agree. Tell me about, let's talk about this weekend. I feel like I get if people are rooting for Lamar, get him over the hump, get the narratives about him to stop. I don't know how, if you're a neutral NFL fan with how you're not rooting for the Lions. Could you imagine the Lions in the Super Bowl? Like, it's such a great story, Dan Campbell. And I underrated part of this for me personally. I remember when I watched the Patriot Rams Super Bowl, which was an awful game.
Yeah.
I remember I might have even tweeted it. I hope no one finds it, but I think I said, like, Jared Goff soiled himself on national TV in that game. He couldn't handle Belichick's defense. He was not ready for the moment. I think it's so awesome to see him playing well because he seems like such a great guy. You got to know him a little bit on Hard Knocks. Aiden Hutchinson, Billie Jean on Hard Knocks. Yes, that is a reason I root. The Lions, to me, how can anyone not root for that team?
I'm 100% with you. My thought a week ago was, please, God, give us Lions Bills. And then one of these teams is going to win the Super Bowl. That would be so unreal. The Bills did what they usually do, and they lost to the Chiefs. But the Jared Goff thing is so funny because I look at him like I used to refer to him like explicitly on the air as hummus. Like he's just hummus. Like it's fine. I guess it's healthy. It's kind of bland. I don't know what to do with it. It's always in my fridge. I don't want it, but I'll eat it if I'm really desperate. And that was mean. And then sure enough, this year, Ryan Fitzpatrick says this is poor man's Matt Ryan. And like we all felt what he was saying when he said that. And yet, here's the story, Jimmy. He becomes only the fifth guy in NFL history to start at quarterback for two different Super Bowl teams if he gets there. He is, meanwhile, he's doing it for Detroit, who's like decades-long loser. He was dumped by big, flashy LA, in which point then they went to the Super Bowl. He's the Walter Payton Man of the Year finalist, which means in the community, he's the greatest guy. And it is this cool thing to root for that sort of boring, rejected Jared Goff, who was a number one overall pick, because, I guess he's better than that kid from North Dakota. He becomes like the top of the mountain. It'd be unbelievable, especially if he beat Lamar, who is like the full rock star, or Mahomes. Like either one of those guys that he's going to have to beat would be insane. It's amazing that you and I are sitting here in 2024 talking about Jared Goff being a cool story, but it is.
I love his story. I felt bad that I thought he played so bad in that. I didn't think he was ready. Like, it just, he was younger then. It was Belichick's defense, and now he's playing so well. Seems like such an easy guy to root for. Normally, too, I'd be rooting for the Chiefs because I love Mahomes. I love the greatness factor of it, and I'd love to see. Like, I know people get mad when the same team wins it over and over. I know there's even Chiefs fatigue, but like, I love that I saw Tom Brady win 7 Super Bowls in my lifetime. Like, I think that's a cool thing. So, like, I'm into Dynasty. Can Mahomes be better than Brady? Like, I love that angle of it. So normally I would be rooting for the Chiefs, and I love the Chiefs as like underdogs. I think that's a different story, which we saw last week. But come on, you got to be rooting for the Lions.
I think so too. Dynasty fatigue is an interesting phenomenon. Let me ask you a question. Like, because you as a guy from this area, by this area I mean New York, do you remember feeling that way about the Jordan Bulls? Like, not against the Knicks, but like, let's say they were playing the Jazz in the finals or the Sonics. Like, were you rooting against them or were you rooting for the dynasty?
I was rooting against them because of being a Knicks fan. Like, if you were a Knicks fan, you just couldn't root for you couldn't root for the Bulls. You just couldn't. Now I look at it and like, it sounds so corny to say, and when people say this, I sort of cringe, but like, it was an honor to watch Michael Jordan. Like, it was, and you have to, that dynasty, what it was, that's, to me, what's awesome about sports sometimes. I know people love the underdogs, like I said, everyone should be rooting for the Lions. But when you look back and you're like, what I saw Michael Jordan do, like, that's insane.
I know.
It's insane.
He never had, though, like what Brady had, which was like Brady had those amazing Eli losses or the
Right.
Foles loss.
Right.
And like that would be interesting as we see Mahomes continue to unfold. Like that, the equivalent of that is, God, remember that year they got to the Super Bowl and they lost to Jared Goff? Like, what was that? I like the weird, holy crap, how did they lose that game from dynasty teams? And maybe this year will be one of them.
Yeah. I also think it shows you, too, with Goff, you have to have weapons. He has so many weapons now with the two running backs and Brown and Laporta, which to me, I don't want to get into a whole Brady thing, but again, Brady, he had Randy Moss for what? Was it 1 year or 2 years? 2 years?
Couple years. Yeah, well, he got
2 years
next year.
And he had Edelman.
Yeah.
And he had Edelman. And Gronk.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, the Brady thing to me, like, that was a different super, like a Brady Jordan difference. Like Jordan had Pippen, he had Kukoc. Tom did all that a lot of times with not, he had Gronk, which is huge, but.
Well, that's why it's going to be huge. I know there's a lot of people theorizing that Travis Kelce is going to retire. They win the Super Bowl, he's going to walk away, and he'll announce it on his podcast. And then that's a whole nother carnival. But then you have the post Kelce Mahomes. And he's going out there with, I guess, Rashee Rice and Justin Watson.
Right.
I don't know what's going to make him. Like, it's pretty cool. We never got to see that before. That's
what makes the Mahomes things fascinating this year is that Rashee Rice has come on, but other than that, there's not I talked about this a little bit last week with Burkhart and Olsen. What are your feelings? What is your life like this time of the year? Like I said, last weekend, this weekend, two best weekends of the year by far.
Mm-hmm.
But I also get very depressed because I feel like it's over.
Yeah.
Now you are in an absolute grind with Good Morning Football 5 mornings a week, and all. So do you like that? There's a breather coming. Are you gonna miss it? You ready for it? Like I get very depressed this time of year because it's over, and it's weird. I get depressed, but I also love having Sundays back. So it's a double-edged sword. What is the Kyle Brandt mentality?
It's a great question. We were talking about this during commercial break today because Jamie said something about, oh my God, you guys, there's 3 football games left. And I think Jason and Peter were a little like you. For me, I'm at mile marker 25 right now, and I can't wait. I'm so excited for it to be over, only because listen, I make it very specific, being that our years are binary, the in-season, off-season. My family and I always take like a big warm weather vacation in February, get the hell out of here. And we can't do that for months and months and months and months. That's just not the way it works. So I'm thrilled. I go away. We call it the end zone trip, and it's done, and another Super Bowl. And yet then the hangover kicks in of we do 15 hours of live TV at the NFL in the off-season, and it's like 7 a.m. first segment. Guys, what do we think of the Eagles this offseason? And it's like, holy crap, this is heavy lifting. It's really hard. Remember when there were Sunday night games and the night before was Steelers Chiefs or something, and we could just run the highlight and talk about what the hell happened? My short answer is I love completing the marathon. The more involved answer is it's very difficult to get back up and have to run the off-season marathon as well.
Yeah. I've told you guys a million times, the off-season is where I feel like your show is. That's where you make your money there, because we'll
start a show by saying which Stranger Things character would Baker Mayfield be, and that's an actual topic, and we can handle it.
All right, I can't think of anyone in the world who'd be better to discuss this with than you.
Go on.
So I will not. I know you might say it, but I would never ask you your age. But your age starts with a 4, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So. Your age starts with a 4. Tell me your thoughts on going to Vegas for several days for the Super Bowl. Because I've gotten into this discussion, and it's led to some fights with my friend group, because we used to always go to Vegas every year for the March Madness, for the tournament. Yep. We haven't done it in several years. And the last time I was there, I said, I think I'm too old for Vegas. I'm not sure I can do this again. Now, there's rumblings of a trip in September with the friend group. And I said, I'll go see Kelly Clarkson and go to the sports book, but I think that's going to be about it. So tell me Kyle Brandt's feelings and mentality going into how many days will you be in Vegas?
All right. I think I'm going to be there 5 nights.
Which is just 2 nights too long for Vegas, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally 3, because my origin story is I lived for 15 years in LA, and we used to take a $49 Southwest Airlines flight from Burbank to Vegas, $49. And you would land in McCarran's and then go right to Mandalay Bay or whatever. So I've been to Vegas probably 30 times. And even when I was 26 years old, 3 nights was too many. It's just too many when you do it that hard. You know what I'll relate to? You'll love this. Do you remember the time on Howard when Gary was bored in Vegas?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so they all
100%.
go to Vegas as a group, as a show, and Gary comes back and says this thing about at one point he was bored and they destroyed him for it. But Gary was right. Gary's point was like, I've already gambled a bunch. I've already eaten. I went to a show. I went to the pool, and I was bored. And they're like, Gary. No, Gary was bleeping right, man. And I'll add this to you, Jimmy. I personally cannot enter a sports book under contract to the NFL. That's out. I'm really, really reticent to even sit down at a card table because I don't want to fly too close to the sun. So the entire gambling aspect is out as well.
Oh my God. Now this podcast is going to be 4 hours. I have so many questions.
That's all out. And also, I don't do, listen, I don't
gamble. You don't gamble.
I don't do that. I don't do the nude women like a lot of people do. I drink and like I eat, but I'm afraid, honestly, it's really specific in the contracts. Yeah. I'm employed by the NFL about gambling. And so like, I don't even know if I could go and pull a slot machine. I probably can, but I don't want to because everything's on camera and I'm not going to get fired in this trip to Vegas for the NFL.
Oh, there's so much here. I will say this. When they gave Gary shit for it is because like Gary was in his room watching a movie, but like, don't you feel like the hotel movie hits different than the home? Like when you're watching a movie in a hotel, it hits different than when you watch it at home.
The hotel movie hits different. The hotel air conditioning, the hotel quiet. If you tell me I got a nice room at the hotel or MGM or whatever, and it's 3:00 and I'm going to go up there, order some room service and watch a movie, it sounds great. I'm with Gary. I want to do that. I don't care. I love it.
But they listed all the things that Gary could do, and he's like, I did them all. I did them all. Yeah,
I already I scratched the itch. I don't want to drink anymore. Haven't you reached the point where you're like, I'm sick of drinking. I'm sick of gambling. I lost a bunch gambling. I just want to just chill, and I can't leave. So he's like, screw it. I'm going to go watch, The Hangover. I'm going to go watch whatever the hell it is. I love it.
Yeah. People. Yeah. That was a great Stern moment. Awesome. Okay. So you're not allowed to go into a sports book, but if you want, I know you're not a gambler, but if you wanted to, you can play blackjack or roulette or what legally.
All right. So I've done like the corporate training on this and you do the videos and stuff. And I don't want to misrepresent anything about what I'm allowed to do or not. I just know that, look, there are very strict rules about gambling and sports. And obviously, like, you don't even walk into a sports book, let alone go to the window, let alone anything. Right. So you go in Vegas, sometimes if you're just looking down at your phone, oh, you walked into a sports book. I didn't know this was a sports book. Right. So my philosophy in all this is like, I will tell you this, Jimmy. I bet that there will be a sports media story coming out of the Super Bowl about some employee of a broadcast partner or the league itself who was spotted here, there, and someplace they're not supposed to be gambling wise. I bet there will, and it's not going to be me. I promise you.
Right. You led me into what I was going to say to you. We'll keep the gambling theme going. What would you say the over under is on sports media people who get in trouble during the Super Bowl week? Now, it could be someone who gets arrested. It could be someone who's getting caught with maybe a woman of the night. It could be someone who gets into a drunken fight. But there is no way everyone in sports media is coming out of that week unscathed.
This is making me nervous. This is going to be Lord of the Flies, the Hunger Games.
Someone's getting in trouble.
There's too many vices. There's too many sins. And added to which, the one that we're all supposed to enjoy legally there is forbidden if you're in sports media, certainly work for the NFL, which is bleeping gambling. So listen, I think the over-under, whatever it is, I'll go over. I hope it's under, but Listen, we see
Yeah.
some people get in trouble when it's someplace completely innocuous like Houston, Texas.
Right.
So if you go to Las Vegas, just the pictures alone, and every NFL player is there, and NFL Honors is going to be there. I'm generally
We
like, I don't want to look at those dumb slot machines when I get off the jetway. I don't want to play rock, paper, scissors with somebody. No wagering will be made by me.
we can't do it here, but maybe like in a group text, me, you, and Schrager, we can
Go on.
predict. Well, we should each predict 3 media people that will get in trouble Super Bowl week. We'll do like a pool, $5
You want to do a
each.
pool? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I will. I'm not even. I'm going to say
yeah.
who would be the number one overall pick, and I'm not even going to suggest it. I don't
No,
know.
no,
I don't.
no.
I'd love everybody in sports media. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Save that for later. I know you don't gamble because I've texted you like, who do you like in this game? You're like, I have no idea. I don't bet. So I
That
know
was
you.
so
And
easy for me when it like, oh, you can't bet on sports. I'm like, I have never placed a sports bet in my life. I
yeah,
just missed that token in the upbringing in America and dudes, and like, I don't know it. I don't do it. I don't play
yeah.
poker, and I don't gamble on sports.
That was another thing I loved about your show Monday. You were because I know you don't gamble. I loved
No.
how authentically confused you were that the Niners were 7-point favorites over the Lions.
So
You were baffled, and I loved it because I'm like, this is great. This is because, and also I know that's not a discussion the NFL Network loves to have, even though there's gambling stuff all over. I know you guys like separate the gambling stuff out to other
we've
people.
evolved a little bit. The piece of advice that I got from a higher up was, you can acknowledge point spreads and all that stuff. What you should avoid is like advocating for like, hey, everybody, get down on the Lions this weekend. I like that bet. Like we don't do that.
Yeah.
At least I don't.
Yeah. 5 nights in Vegas. Wow.
It's unbelievable. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch movies. Like,
you don't have to answer this. Is your wife going with you?
She usually does. She almost always makes the trip. I don't know if she's coming or not this year. It's just we got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, but that would help a lot.
I was going to say, I think everyone who has a wife should bring their wife to stay out of trouble.
I know, but like honestly, like I would go to. I don't know, what are the shows now? Is Wayne Newton still doing? I would go to that. I don't care.
Yeah,
I'd go to anything.
Yeah. Super Bowl in Vegas. Who would have thought? What happened were you supposed to go to both games in Buffalo or one of the games and you couldn't make it because of the weather? What the hell happened there?
I was supposed to go to the wild card round, and I was supposed to work it on Sunday. I had a flight, and I'm sitting there with my bags packed. And here's the thing: you get these pictures from people in Buffalo, and they'll open their curtains in their house and they'll be like, "Hey, at Kyle Brandt, look at this," and it's almost past sideways snow. The snow is going up. It's upside down snow, and it's a complete torrential disaster outside. And I'm like, hey, my Delta flight says I'm still taking off on time to land in Buffalo. How the hell is that possible? Flight gets canceled, rescheduled for the next morning. That gets canceled. I was really bummed. It's really insane that we have these big of events like NFL playoff games put down in that type of atmosphere that is so subject to risk and moving and everything. And we still do it, and we'll continue to do it. But my flights got screwed. I didn't go.
Yeah. So it's funny. So my oldest, longest best friend from 7th grade is a huge Bills fan. Had family in Buffalo, went to Buffalo, and he has 2 sons, Ryan and Brady, and they're all Kyle Brandt fans. Big Kyle Brandt fans. His wife is a Kyle Brandt fan too from Days of Our Lives, believe it or not.
Thank you, Philip.
And this is how he texts me. This is how he now I had no idea he lives in Long Island like me. He texts me Friday. Does Kyle want to meet Brady and I up in Orchard Park? That's how he tells me he's going to the game because he's a Kyle Brandt fan. Now listen to this story.
Go on.
So he drives whatever it is, 7-8 hours up there. And I get this text at 8. Now the game started what time Sunday? 6:30. 8:15, I get a text. You have no idea. Missed the whole first quarter. Couldn't park. Nightmare. Walked 1.5 miles to get into the stadium.
Awesome.
Got here after it was 10:06.
Oh, my God.
And then the poor guy, my friend Brett, watches the Bills lose in another wide right field goal.
Sure.
How do you bounce back after that?
Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
I had to mention him and let him know you're fans is maybe a way to cheer him. He's a fan of yours to cheer him up.
It's great to hear from you. I would have loved to get together and have a beer with you, your sons, everybody. We'll do it sometime. I really mean it. I'm not joking when I say I'll be back in Buffalo at some point.
I just to go to those sporting events like that and watch your team lose. I'm a big bitch. I can't handle it. Like I was at Yankee Stadium for the Aaron Boone game when he hit the home run against the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Kyle, when I tell you I was this close to leaving at one point, I turned because I think the Red Sox had it was either it was a 3-run lead or a 4-run lead. I think it was a 3-run lead. And I turned to my buddy who was at the game with, and I said, just so you know, if the Red Sox score one more run, I'm leaving because there's no way I'm going to sit here in Yankee Stadium and watch the Red Sox celebrate. And I thank God my friend who got the tickets also almost got arrested for scalping outside the stadium before they got the whole other story. And I to go to those, make that trip and and you lose.
It's brutal.
It's brutal.
I'm trying to think about the comeback series with Big Papi and the Schilling and the Red Sox and all that. I just remember Game 7. I think it was Kevin Brown was the starter for the Yankees, and you knew 10 minutes into the game that he didn't have it and that they were going to lose that game. I thought it was amazing. I was rooting so hard against the Yankees, but I feel you, Jimmy.
Yeah. We got to talk about your appearance on Wheel of Fortune. Before we do that, anything you want to say? Do you want to do predictions on Chiefs, Ravens, and Lions, Niners? What's your Super Bowl look like? You tell me either what you think is going to happen, what you're rooting for.
All right, the rooting for is more interesting. I'm rooting. So my loyalties are split. One, I'm like anybody. I just want something interesting to watch. Just give me storylines. So the most interesting to watch would be the Lions and then probably the Ravens, just because they've seen the Chiefs a lot. And the Niners, look, they've had a ton of success in our lifetime. So I think most interesting, you're sitting at a Super Bowl party, having nachos and want to look at something fresh. I think it's Ravens, Lions. But I'm at the point where I'm just like, I want to keep working here. I want to continue to be paid to work for the NFL. And I let's just keep riding this ridiculous bubble of NFL ratings as high as possible. And for that, you have the Chiefs and then you have the 49ers. You have just these two golden brands. Taylor Swift is there. Usher walks in to perform halftime as the second biggest pop star in the building by far. And Kelsey is there. And that one, I've always wanted to, I don't know what the game is. I don't know what the Super Bowl ratings record game is. It's probably within the last 5 to 10 years. But every year I feel like I want to break it just because, look, I don't just cover the NFL. Like, that's my company. My paychecks say National Football League. Screw it. Let's have 200 million people watch.
There's also this weird thing that's happened. I don't know how many. I didn't even think of this, but there's this weird thing that happens where more people watch the halftime show than the game now, which goes to show you what a spectacle it's become. I remember that's happened a few times. But
the thing I said this morning was, I think Jamie was saying that 162 million combined people watched football during the divisional weekend. If you add all the games up.
Yeah.
And I was like, isn't that low? There are 350 million Americans. What are the other 200 million Americans doing? You're not watching football games at all this weekend? You didn't turn it on for 5 minutes? Isn't that crazy still? We're to the point where I'm like, 162 million seems low to me. What is the other part of the country even doing? I don't get it.
Well, what I've always found ridiculous is that I shouldn't say nobody. That's a lot of people, especially in the playoffs. I think especially in the playoffs. I had a buddy, people watch. A lot of people don't watch the game alone. Everyone watches it in groups. So I had a friend over to watch the game the other night. The ratings to me are always a little weird because what about the bar that's got 200 people in it? So it's and that's how sports are consumed, especially football. All right, Wheel of Fortune.
Let's go.
Kyle was on Wheel of Fortune.
Yep.
The first thing I want to know is, what was your first reaction when you saw the wheel? Was it bigger than you thought, smaller than you thought, intimidating, turning it? I want to run down on the wheel.
I got you. My first reaction was, I'm going to spin the ever living hell out of this thing. I want to set a record for the most times it's gone around. And I'm just going to put my entire heart and soul into spinning it right off the wheels. I want to break the wheel. It's unbelievably heavy. You can't really spin it that hard. It is the stepbrother, of course, with the Price is Right wheel, which you reach up and pull down. Now, that one can go for a week if you give it enough ride. But I am telling you, Jimmy, I did everything short of crow hop for my first wheel spin. And it just kind of slugged around like it does for every other wheel spinner at all. So it is unbelievably heavy. And the wheel is boss. You're not going to come in here and like teach the wheel a lesson and humble it. The wheel humbles you. I don't know who is built that thing under there, but it's 2,000 pounds. It's Stonehenge. You will spin it how it wants to be spun, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. You think you're the first one coming in saying, I'm going to spin this thing as hard as anyone ever has.
No, I thought I'm going to be the world record holder, say Jack. You'll always remember the way Brandt spun that wheel. Yeah. Totally pedestrian spin, landed on $600. Nothing special.
Now tell me, once the introductions are over,
yeah,
and the game starts,
mm-hmm.
and the first spin of the wheel happens. 1 to 10, what's your nerve level at?
10.
Oh, 10. Really?
Unbelievably nervous.
Really?
And there's even a backstory to it. So that place, Wheel of Fortune, as you might imagine, is a well-oiled machine. They are, bam, like clockwork. And part of that machinery is well before the show starts, they bring out all 3 contestants, and then you do a full rehearsal where there is a stand-in for Pat Sajak, this really gregarious guy, and they put puzzles up and like, guys, let's play the game. And you spin the wheel and you start solving puzzles and guessing letters. So you go through almost a half an hour, almost a full episode of Wheel of Fortune just for fun. And it's so smart that they do that because it does calm your nerves. And I cleaned up in the rehearsal. Like I was getting every single puzzle, every quick money. So I felt great. And yet when you walk out there and you hear Wheel of Fortune, mm-hmm. and there comes Pat and there comes Vanna, and they walk over and Pat says, all right, everybody, grab your buzzers. We're going to start with the fast money one. I didn't get the first fast money one. I didn't. And so I said, damn, all right, I had no idea what that was. I would still be standing there. I didn't get the first puzzle. And now I'm like, I'm going to be that loser. I didn't want to be the loser who we make fun of on Jeopardy, who embarrasses themselves in the sports category, or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, who gets the first one wrong. I don't want to be the guy who Pat comes over at the end and says, well, at least did you have some nice memories here? We got a lot of great things for you. I didn't want to be that person. So when I missed the first 2 puzzles, I said, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. I was so scared. My palms were sweating. They really were.
Wow. I'm a little surprised by that. Now,
I was very nervous. I'm a wheel watcher my whole life. Like I watch it. I shout out the letters at home, and I thought it was getting away from it.
When you went into it, how did you think you were going to do? And then how do you feel? And then how do you feel about how you did?
I was unbelievably prepared. I did homework. I researched. I worked, and by that I mean I downloaded the Wheel of Fortune app. I probably did 2,000 puzzles in the couple weeks leading up to going there. Wow. I would do all just constantly. And the best part was, Jimmy, I researched it and I went online and I studied and I found an article that somebody had written for the New York Times a few years back where they hired a mathematician to break down odds and analytics for Wheel of Fortune and what are the most common letters and what are the letters to guess and what are the letters not to guess. And it's not what you would think. So you go to the bonus round, which thankfully I got to twice, and they do RST, LNE, and then you have to pick 3 letters and a vowel. That's how it's worked for years. They give you RST, LNE, and then Pat will say, now give us 3 letters and a vowel. He had a formula where he says the number 1 highest probability for the combination of letters is it's the PHOG thing. PHG and then O. Now, to me, some of those are second and third class letters. I would never have said H. I would never have said O. I'd say A. Like those are crappy letters. Like those are in the steerage. Give me the big, give me M. Give me the, no, go PHOG. And when you get up there and ding, 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 RSTLNE, and then Pat turns to you, you want to say, screw it. I'm going to go with my gut here. I stuck with the numbers and I said PHGNO both times. And damn it, it worked. They started dinging up PHGNO and I got both bonus round puzzles right because I had done the work.
Wow.
Funny attachment to that story. The next episode that they're doing after us, because they do like 5 a day, just by coincidence, is ex-NFL players. And it was Rashad Jennings, and it was Marcellus Wiley, and it was Jared Allen. I walk up to Jared in the makeup room. As I'm coming off, he's going on. I say, hey, Jared, what's going on, man? Are you ready for this? And I'm like, do you know, like, what letters you're going to pick? He goes, dude, PHOG, I'm ready. PHOG. And I go, you did the work. PHOG, do it. He's like, I'm ready. And sure enough.
That is amazing. Well. That is amazing. Did you think in the moment that you would go viral for hitting on Vanna?
Not in the moment, no. But the backstory to that is, first of all, 100%.
I think we know what the backstory is.
Well, yeah, when I was a kid, I looked at Vanna White as the image of beauty and elegance, and like I thought she was amazing. And she did a TV movie called A Goddess of Love on ABC in like 1988, which she played Aphrodite. And I watched it with my mom, and I was like, "This is like the perfect woman ever." So go to last year. I show up to the set, and they do 10,000 pre-interviews, like to see what you're into and what you like. And I just say, I love Vanna. They're like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah, I grew up. She was my childhood crush," and they love that. And they said to me, we always kind of put it as a little bit of a challenge to our contestants. If you can get Vanna to talk, she doesn't talk much on the show. And I said, "Is she mic'd?" I watch the show all the time. She's like, "She is mic'd. She just doesn't usually talk much." So if you could get her to talk, that's always like kind of a victory for the staff and the show. So I said, "All right, I'll try it." And then you get to the show, and Pat, Shirley on his little note card says, like, ask Kyle about Vanna. And so he asked me about Good Morning Football. So great you're here, charity you're playing for. And we understand you're a fan of this lady over here. So I think out of nowhere, I didn't have this preloaded at all because I wasn't sure he was going to ask. I said, "Pat, you're great, but this is a Vanna show. And Vanna, you're my childhood crush. And I say this with all due respect to you as a TV legend and with my wife here in the audience. But for many years of my life, you were the puzzle I wanted to solve." And it just
what
came
a line.
Like that.
What a goddamn line.
Yeah, I know. And everybody online was so funny because it's all a million like Kyle out here ready to risk it all. Yeah. Kyle shooting his shot. And then in the aftermath, Jimmy, the ones that killed me.
Like the New York Post wrote an article about it, I think.
Yeah, they did. And they collected some of the tweets. I saw the New York Post article. The one that killed me is that, Pat was like doing this very funny, incredulous bit about what did you just say? And I like the tweets that were like, "Pat's out here hating. Shut up, Pat. Let this man cook." Yeah. And I was like, I was dying. Pat out here hating. It was so funny. And great. I have to say this. And Vanna White, before the show begins, you go out on set, and this is before you're dressed when you do that rehearsal, and there's just producers guiding you around. Tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and in yoga pants and a sweatshirt is Vanna White. And she goes, "Hi, I'm Vanna. You're Kyle." Big hug, super warm. Take pictures. Vanna, this is my wife. Oh, hugs to the wife. This is my mother-in-law. Hugs to the mother-in-law. Could not have been a cooler, warmer person. And Sajak too. But I say this with Vanna. We had a whole exchange before it. I told her about the TV movie thing and how much I liked her and everything. So she knew that was kind of my deal. And she was so nice and so warm that she inspired me on Good Morning Football when we have guests to go and find them and like before they come out on the set and be even more warm to them. So she was amazing.
Love it. Great story. And you don't have to comment on this. I'll say it.
Go on.
As your friend, I'm very happy you got to do that with Sajak and not with Ryan Seacrest, who's going to take over.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like Seacrest is Seacrest. Great. I totally respect it. Sajak
I don't.
The icon. I grew up Sajak. It was amazing.
Right.
It's like, I was glad too.
If you can get on any single game show right now at 11:24 on Wednesday, January 24th, what game show would you want to go on?
Well, I don't know if you know this, Jimmy, but the reason I got to go on Wheel of Fortune and the reason that Peter Schrager got to go on Jeopardy was Michael Davies is the creator of Good Morning Football. He is our godfather. We owe everything to him. He is the showrunner for Jeopardy. So he is in deep with Sony at NL. So he got this thing where, okay, if you're having charity episodes, let's put our longest two tenured members of our show, Peter and Kyle, let's put them on. What I don't know how it was decided that Peter was Jeopardy and I was Wheel of Fortune. I don't know the answer to that.
I hope this did not cause any bad blood between you two.
I think Peter was very pleased because Peter, I think, likes Jeopardy more, but I love Jeopardy too. Peter wasn't able to win his episode despite doing really well. I dominated mine on, I think, probably an easier show. So the answer to your question is I would like to be on Wheel of Fortune again. I wish it was like what's going on with Katie Nolan right now, where she's going back to Jeopardy and she's advancing and she gets multiple rounds. Yeah. I would like to go back and advance on Wheel of Fortune charity episode to see if I could beat anybody else, which I think I could.
All right. But besides Wheel of Fortune, give me a game show you'd want to do.
God damn. Not reality. My favorite game show of all time is Supermarket Sweep. where they would run through the aisles with that grocery cart and just throw big old hams and baby formula and diapers in there. I still act that game show out to this day in the aisles. Supermarket sweep.
Okay.
What's yours?
Mine would probably, I mean, this shows you how old I am, but I'll tell you a game show I used to love, and it takes no brain
power.
Tell the truth? No, it takes no brain power whatsoever. Card Sharks.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
Is it higher than an 8? Oh, I would get so into that show. Are you old enough to remember Tic-Tac-Toe with the dragon?
A little bit.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
Jimmy,
was good.
You're not older than me, but I don't remember Tic-Tac-Toe. I remember Class.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
But Card Sharks would be the game show I'd want to be on. That was a fun one back in the day.
They brought it back with Joel McHale a couple of years ago, and I asked Joel, like we were doing an interview, I go, Joel, so what's your favorite part of hosting the show? And he goes, the money.
Yeah. I love Password and the Pyramid. The Pyramid was great too. But
ones that were game show adjacent, I guess they were game shows.
Yeah.
Love Connection was crazy with Chuck Woolery, and they go out on a date, and there's a lot of talk. There's always talk about making whoopee. That was a phrase that
whoopee was like the game show and like dating show word back then. Whoopee.
What was that? So if anybody not listening doesn't understand, they'd have the newlywed game, and they'd be like, when you make whoopee, what is your partner thinking about? And they're like, when you have sex. But it was make whoopee, which as a kid I thought was strange because also at the time Whoopi Goldberg was blowing up. So I'm like, what's with whoopee? And then I know,
but it also, I think it's such a ridiculous word that it made ththings funny because the word was so like if you say whoopee. Making love, but whoopee, I mean, and it also like, I don't know, it automatically makes me think of the most famous like game show clip of all time when it was the Newlywed Game. Where's your favorite place? Where's the last place you made whoopee?
It's like where's the most unusual or where's the craziest place, and she refers to part of her anatomy
in the butt. You could say it. Yeah, that was a great clip. Anything else we need to know about Wheel of Fortune before? I think we covered a lot there. That was good stuff.
It was a dream come true. It's one of the coolest things I've ever done. And if I had lost the game, Jimmy, I'd say it's one of the worst things I've ever done. I dominated. I was so happy.
I love it. Oh, with the Super Bowl on CBS, are you doing anything for NFL today? Because you've done game stuff.
I'm shooting a piece that will run on CBS on Super Bowl Sunday. We do what I call the one-shot series for years now, where I don't even know how to describe them. They're just self-contained pieces that are long tracking shots, which go 2.5 minutes without cutting. And I have to do a lot of memorizing and a lot of walking and make a lot of comparisons. And we've done them for years. We will do one for the Super Bowl. And I have kind of
hard
in mind.
How hard are those to do?
Very hard.
For you.
We're doing one this weekend too for the title game on CBS. There'll be one as well that we're shooting tomorrow in Central Park. And
nice.
I get a massive, massive adrenaline high from them because they're very hard to do. It's 2 straight minutes with extras, cameras. I have to write them. And then if you get 1 minute, 58 seconds into it and flub a line, you go all the way back to people are dejected. Wow. Yeah. But when you stick the landing, and especially, we've done ones where I'm in an MMA octagon, where I'm skiing. I try to make it harder. When you finish the 2 minutes and you stick it and they say clear, the people cheer, they high five, they hug. It is so fun because it's so hard. It's back to what we talked about. Like, how many years, Jimmy, have we been watching and here's the wacky piece that we shot for our pregame show, whether it's, the Rob Riggle stuff or Kenny Mayne or whatever it is, that's been done for decades. And so we always say, I'm trying to find something that is some way original. And my original angle is it's always one shot. It's not a comedy bit. It's just, we never, ever cut. And I don't think that's been done before, at least not in that format.
Like, how many hours of prep for you goes into that? But it's from when you start to prep to when you nail it. How long is that whole?
The writing
hours.
And I write it myself. And a lot of times, you'll release them and people are really enjoying them on social, which is great. But a lot of comments are like, your writer needs a raise. And you know what pissed me off, Jimmy? I'm going to call somebody out who's a big celebrity. Tyler Lautner, who I've met and who's a great guy, like one of the nicest guys you'll meet. One of us posts on Instagram and he comments on it. And I've met him and I love Tyler. And he's just like something about, man, the writing is incredible, or like, cheers to your writer. And I'm like, Tyler, you probably have like $5 million in Instagram followers or something like that. You're killing me. I'm the writer. I will never have a writer. That's not me. I write. So, all the Twilight fans think now I'm some sort of poser. So the answer to your question is it takes a long time, a lot of writing, and it's very difficult to do, but it's a natural high.
I love that. Because we could bring this right back to where we started. I'll get nice compliments about the podcast. So someone will write an article about the podcast and it'll say, oh, great job by your booker.
I'm the booker.
Me, motherfucker. So yeah, that's what happens.
I mean, I think you're the pillar of Sports Illustrated right now. I'm telling you, you are the tent pole.
Oh, stop.
You are now what Kate Upton used to be, what Kathy Ireland used to be, what Michael Jordan used to be, and now it's Jimmy Traina. We did it.
I can't believe you just brought up Kate Upton because do you get this weird stuff on Twitter where random people like year-old tweets from you all day long?
Yes.
So yesterday, someone liked some tweet of mine from God, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was about how this is how ridiculous this career has been. When Kate Upton was in the swimsuit issue for the first time, this was when I was doing Hot Clicks. And in Hot Clicks one day, was like, Kate Upton is the rookie of the year. The rookie of the year was not a real thing. I made that up for that day's Hot Clicks. Yeah. SI the swimsuit people ended up doing the rookie of the year after that. But the tweet was about the fact that on Kate Upton's Wikipedia page, it said was named the SI Rookie of the Year by Jimmy Traina of Hot Clicks.
Oh, that's great.
It's not there now, I don't think, but I saw this person liking that tweet from like 2014 yesterday, and I'm like, what is going on here? But
I think they're bots who do.
Yeah, of course they're bots. Yeah.
But I remember our friendship even started just talking about like old SI covers or current SI covers. We had a lot of conversations about Samantha Hoops. Samantha Hoops was big at the time. Samantha Hoops' work, but we go back talking about that for a long time.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up Howard and Gary in Vegas. That was the highlight of this podcast.
Oh, I already ate, Bob. I already game, Bob. What should I do? I'm Team Gary.
Poor Gary. He gets so beat up.
I know.
But he's great. Yeah. I know. All right. I appreciate it, man. I know you stayed after Good Morning Football. I know you have other topics you want to discuss. Feel free, but I figured I'd let you go home, get some rest in. Kyle Brandt, Good Morning Football every morning on the NFL Network, NFL Today on CBS. 10 takes in 10 minutes comes out every Monday, I believe. Every Monday. Are you going to keep doing that when the season's over? Do you know?
I think so. Yeah.
Good.
It's like, again, find a way to be original. My podcast is only 10 minutes long. You can read it and listen to it on the toilet. We're big on toilets. It's
got to be occupied on the toilet. Kyle, appreciate it, and shout out to everyone listening to this on the toilet. Enjoy Vegas. We'll do a pool of who's going to get in trouble in Vegas. I got some thoughts.
We're going to stop recording now and start texting right now. Thank you, Jimmy.
Later, Kyle. Thanks. All right, joining me now as he does every week for our weekly Traina Thoughts segment from WFAN Radio in New York, SNY TV in New York, my buddy Sal Licata. Sal, how are you?
Oh, great. Just terrific. As we sit here on this Wednesday recording.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Let's start with this. I'm getting such a huge kick out of this Doc Rivers thing. ESPN has the best NBA analyst on television in Jeff Van Gundy. They fire him. Marchand reports that one of the reasons ESPN let Van Gundy go was because ESPN thought Van Gundy wanted to get back into coaching, and they didn't want the instability, or is it instability, with its number one booth. They bring in Doc Rivers, who everybody knows wants to go back into coaching. The guy doesn't even last till the All-Star break, and he's back in. I mean, why the Bucks are firing their coach is a fascinating story. But this is what I wrote in Traina Thoughts on Wednesday. All I could think about with this story was Vince McMahon when he said after the Montreal screw job, Brett screwed Brett, ESPN screwed ESPN.
And two people made wrong decisions here. ESPN, number one, for firing Van Gundy, And then the Bucs, they should have hired Van Gundy to coach instead of Doc Rivers. I mean, Van Gundy's a better broadcaster and better coach. I don't pay attention to the Bucs night in, night out, but I see a 30-13 record and they fired their head coach. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And then Doc, who's choked away big games left and right in recent years, getting the opportunity. What a weird thing.
I have nothing against Doc, and he's fine as a broadcaster, but like ESPN had a thing with Breen and Jackson and Van Gundy. They called 17 finals in a row.
Right.
Like you don't have that stability in sports TV. And universally, Van Gundy was thought of as the best analyst, and you just fire him. Like it was insane. It made zero sense. And I don't think he's announcing anywhere because he's, getting some severance or whatever, or, he's got a contract. And they made a big deal about Doc Rivers. I mean, everyone knows, everyone in the business knows Van Gundy got fired because he criticized the refs. And the league, let me be clear. I don't think the league said to ESPN, fire Jeff Van Gundy. I think the league repeatedly called ESPN and said, can't you do something about this guy or tell this guy to stop or this and that. And ESPN had enough. The NBA rights deal is up. ESPN wants to keep the rights. So they whacked Van Gundy and brought in Doc Rivers, who's gone. Ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, that was a weird one for me. I miss Jeff. That's the bottom line. I'd like to see Van Gundy as the coach more than a broadcaster.
I thought all along, and I've said this on the podcast, I thought all along what ESPN was trying to do is they want to move. I think this is just my speculation. I think they want to move JJ Redick into that role. And they couldn't have done it this year. Everyone would have said, like, it's too soon. And how could, this guy, you make him the lead analyst after, 1 season, 2 seasons, whatever it is. So I think eventually that job will be JJ Redick's. I wrote today, though, for this year, they should just let Huey Brown do it. The guy's 90 years old. Throw him a bone, give him sort of a career reward, and let Huey call the NBA Finals with Doris Burke and Mike Breen.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I can't. I don't even care at this particular point. Once they get rid of Van Gundy, my guy, I stop really caring. It is odd, though, how they make that hire, and then he leaves before February. It's insane.
Crazy. What do you like this week with the Lions and Niners and then the Ravens and Chiefs?
You talking about with the spread? I haven't really thought about it.
Is there any other way?
Yeah, well, I guess that's true. What's
Ravens
the spread
minus,
in the Lions game?
Ravens are minus 3.5 against the Chiefs, total 44.5, and the Niners are 7-point favorites against the Lions, total 50.5.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Lions and the points, and I'll take the Ravens minus the points. I've been going against the Chiefs all postseason long and losing all postseason long. One more time. I don't think anybody's beating the Ravens, assuming Lamar stays healthy. So give me the Ravens minus 3.5. I think they win that game by double digits. And I'm going to root for Detroit. That's part of it. But I also think that 7's a lot for that team that's competitive. I don't think they'll win, but I think they're competitive.
Yeah, I do like the Lions. I don't know what to do in that first game. I also feel like I have to sneeze, which is bad for a podcast. So I'm going to try my best not to let it out, but man, it's coming close.
Yeah, that's all right.
I like the Lions a lot, getting the touchdown. I had the Bills last week, and it reminded me of the Brady days when the game was over, and I said to myself, never, ever again will I take money I make and bet it against Patrick Mahomes. Can't do it. Can't do it.
Right. And I totally understand that logic. And as somebody who's here's the problem with the Chiefs that's maddening. From a picker, better standpoint, I've bet them a lot during the course of the regular seasons over the last few years. And a lot of the times they disappoint and don't cover, or they make it frustrating for you. Mahomes in fantasy this year was not his dominant self. The Chiefs played their best game of the year on Sunday against the Bills. They did not do that. That wasn't the norm throughout the course of the year. So I don't know if it's about Mahomes, although I understand why people would never bet against him again. But I think it was just even more the Chiefs in general putting it together at the right time. I still don't believe in them. I think the Ravens are better. So,
well, their defense, I don't know if I agree with they played their best game of they did defensively, I think, but their offense is doing it, I think. Listen, they have Pacheco, who's great, but
which they haven't had that type of back, and now Rice is becoming a weapon, and they're getting Kelsey finally involved again.
Right. But they still are not an explosive offense. I mean, Rice is coming along, but he's not a number one receiver yet. Pacheco's great, but you don't win it with running. And, Kelsey's fallen off a little bit despite having 2 touchdowns last week. So I as of this taping, I think I'll bet the over in that game because I don't think they're going to, I think there'll be points. So I'll bet the over in that game and then I'll bet the Lions. That's what I'll do. There's going to be, I saw some publicity for it, and I just want to mention this. I'll mention it again before it happens, but on Super Bowl Sunday, they have CBS has the 76-hour pregame show. Yeah. But there's one thing that I'm going to take note of is at 1:00 in the afternoon, they're airing a 1-hour documentary retrospective on the NFL today. And I'm looking forward to it. They have interviews with Brent Musburger, Greg Gumbel, James Brown, Jim, all the hosts of the show over the years.
That's Sunday at 1?
Super Bowl Sunday at 1:00. Okay. So just making people aware of that. Okay. What other topics do I have here? There's two food topics that, and I won't tell everyone your food story that you shared with me over the weekend if you don't want me to, but
I don't even remember it.
You were a pig.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, you could say that one. We could tell that one.
Sal ate a whole bag of potato chips over the weekend in one sitting. I need to know the brand.
That's a regular occurrence for me. That's not even that big of a deal in my mind. It was, damn it. I forget the name. It was a kettle cooked kind.
Kettle cooked. Okay.
It's a purple bag. It's Maui sweet onion, I think was the specific kind that it was.
Maui sweet onion, kettle cooked. And you ate the whole bag. What? Watching the games? You ate the whole bag?
Deep River, is that one? Is that
that is one. Yes.
I think that was it then. So and now it's not a huge bag, but either way, I sat there, I didn't eat a lot that day. My weakness is chips. I'm not a sugar guy. I like the salt and the chips. The trick here is that my wife, now she knows on Friday night I like to cheat or Saturday night I like to cheat as far as eating something unhealthy. She went food shopping early in the day, bought this particular bag of chips, which she knows that I like, and I found out later, hoping to share that particular bag of chips. She was up putting the baby to sleep. I came home, put the TV on, went in the secret stash, found these chips that she bought for me, was going to surprise. By the time she came down, they were gone. And
it did not take you long to even devour this.
No, it didn't. Chips. And then, she proceeded to call me a fat fuck. And I was like, oh, I guess,
I didn't want that part of the story out there. I was just focusing on you.
It's true. I mean, it happened. What do you want me to lie?
And what did I tell you on text? I said, tell her you're stress eating from the stuff going on with the house.
Yeah, well, and the jobs and everything else. She understood, and she also apologized and knew that in the moment, she wasn't necessarily proud of that. But I'll tell you this, I got to the gym the next morning. So, I mean, her little motivation worked. And I did feel bad. I just didn't, usually I eat the chips. She's a chocolate person. So,
did you feel sick, though, after eating the whole bag?
No, I felt fine.
See, chips, if I ate a whole bag, I'd be sick.
Yeah, there are times where I did. I used to do this a long time ago. I ate a whole bag of Cool Ranch Doritos once. And it was actually before a girl was coming over. And
oh, my God.
Yeah, that didn't work out too well. That was, that one, I did have a... Is this thing on? I did have a stomach ache that night. We won't get into the details of it.
This poor girl.
True story. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of problems with that. A lot of problems. Oh, my God.
What do you want me to tell you?
So what was it? Onion potato chips?
Sweet Maui onion, I think. Sweet Maui onion or something. They're delicious. They're a little, I really shouldn't have eaten the whole bag because they have a specific taste, but they're very good.
I'm a Ruffles guy.
Regular, Lay's Ruffles?
Well, not Lay's. The brand is Ruffles. Lay's has their fake Bush League Ruffle spinoff. but Ruffles, white bag with the blue.
That's the name brand?
Ruffles.
Okay, yeah. All right.
I think if I'm not mistaken, boy, you got to be a real fat piece of shit to know this, but I think the Ruffles parent company is Frito-Lay.
You are correct. Yeah, I know that.
Right.
I know.
So Ruffles, though, not Lay's Ruffles or Wavy, whatever that.
Right.
It's Ruffles. That's the top chip in the nation.
Plain?
Yes. Just load me up with the salt.
No sour cream and onion.
No.
Because there was a time, like if we were ranking chips, where I would say Ruffles, sour cream, and onion were like atop the game.
Yeah. I think I got in a huge fight with my nieces recently because we were going to get chips and she didn't want the ridges. And I'm like, no, the Ruffles, they like the Lay's in the yellow bag.
Right.
I don't know. That's not.
I can't do that anymore. The plain, thin, crisp chip. I'm a kettle cooked. I like the way I like Cape Cod is probably my favorite right now. But
if I'm not doing the Ruffles, then I like a kettle cooked as well.
Okay, there you go.
Cape Cod. I don't like that brown one. What's the brown? The company with the brown. I don't like that bag, but whatever.
Yeah.
Do you ever eat Burger King?
I have, of course. Yeah.
Did you? I saw a story that said Burger King's doing this thing now where any customer who walks in, the person working there helping you has to say, "You rule," to the customer.
Really?
That would make me not go there.
Yeah. Oh,
like you
I
walk in.
I want to check it out now. I want to see what's up over there.
You want someone in your life to tell you that you rule.
I could use that more. Well, I mean, it'd be being told you're a fat fuck.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Does it work? Does it work through the drive-through? I mean, maybe I go up and see, get a little. I don't want to go in. I haven't been.
I would assume it would have to go. I would assume it would have to be drive-through and at the counter.
The number one thing I get from Burger King, it used to be a chicken sandwich. Now I just like, if I go, I get onion rings. So that's my go-to there.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that once. It's employees of the fast food chain are required to offer every customer a crown, regardless of age or what is ordered. They also have to say, "You rule." It is reportedly an effort to boost the scores of franchises after the company announced that it is offering expansion opportunities to the highest scorers.
It sounds like a Seinfeld episode. Like you got to walk into the bank and get a hello. Remember with Kramer? He had to walk into the bank and get a hello, and he's like, "That wasn't a hi or something." That's what it sounds like to me.
It was also the great episode when everyone in Jerry's apartment building starts kissing each other. Hello. Jerry doesn't want to participate.
No, I'm good.
They put his picture on the board.
Cross it out with the devil face in it. Great.
So I know it's been stressful, and if you don't want to get into the house stuff, you don't have to, but everyone asks for updates. And I know it's actually now it's like becoming a problem. And if you want to just like give a 1-sentence update, whatever you want to do, but people keep asking, it's ridiculous.
There really is no update, which sucks. I mean, that is the update that since we last lost out on that house, we told you, there are no houses to be seen, unfortunately. And it looks like as the days are dwindling here, we're going to have to probably rent something, which I just can't even believe that this is going to be the case. The worst part of it for me is I'm a creature of habit. I like stability. I like to know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it. Moving in itself is stressful and a pain in the ass, but not knowing exactly when you're moving and have no idea where you're moving to are the two things that are just making me eat chips.
Is all your is all your stuff packed up?
No, it's been a process, like a lot of it. Like if you came over and saw my downstairs, like all my collectibles and all that shit, that's all packed up. It's all totally different. You can't, you also got to use stuff. So like all the clothes is going to be last and things like that. But we've been starting to get over the last few months, things in order. We have to be out by no later than the end of March. That's the only known thing.
Okay. Is there a teeny tiny part of you that's happy that on Sunday you can watch the AFC and NFC title games and not look at houses on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I wish I could go look at houses on Saturday that were realistic, but It's just
What
not
about
the
the
case.
week in between the title games and the Super Bowl? Like that could be a Saturday, Sunday, go look at houses day, no?
Yeah, well,
Weekend,
now
right?
basically it's over. Football season's over, so
Right.
there are 3 games left. I mean,
So
championship
you'll get a
Sunday. I'm gonna.
house. You'll get a house
What?
now.
I mean,
You can
that's the thing.
focus.
Now, you're right. Now I could focus clearly. We have the full
Yeah.
weekend after this weekend. Then we have the Saturday before Super Bowl Sunday.
You know, it's not really a joking matter. I don't even like to make light of anything that happened last week, but I will say people listen to the pod probably appreciate the fact that when all of this craziness was going on with Sports Illustrated on Friday and people thought the company was not continuing, even though here we are continuing and I'm doing this podcast, I got a call from a former coworker and friend, Chris Chavez, and wanted to know what was going on. And then at the very end of the conversation, he says to me, I didn't know if you were in the mood for jokes or any lightheartedness. I said, well, what do you got? And he goes, it would have been the ultimate cliffhanger if the podcast would have ended and we didn't know what was going to end up going on with Sal's house. Like, this is what people are worried about. So,
Oh man,
yeah.
Well,
get that house taken care of.
Let's hope taken care of. Yeah. Let's hope it both turns out a happy ending here. So I'll keep you posted. Don't worry. Yeah.
All right, Sal. Enjoy the game. So you're gonna go Lions and Ravens on Sunday.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Enjoy the games and enjoy the chips this weekend.
All right. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
Take it easy. All right. My many, many thanks to Kyle Brandt, Sal Licata. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you subscribe to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. You'll get the pod delivered to you every week. Leave a review on Apple if you can. If you missed last week's show, it was a great episode with Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson from Fox Sports. Really great conversation with those guys. We'll obviously have the NFC title game, and what could be their final game together with Tom Brady supposedly joining Fox next year and Burkhardt. So give that pod a listen from last week if you missed it. And again, if you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. All right, that wraps it up. We will see you next week. Thanks for listening. Stay safe and take care.